Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Podcast. Today I have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Rick Wibbenmeyer, longtime faculty member here at Chaminade as well as coach. So we're going to talk about his time in the classroom, on the sports field, and just overall his Chaminade experience, and get to know him a little better as well. So thanks Rick for joining us. Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
Now I have to talk first of all and share with our audience, you certainly I'm sure hold the prize for the longest commute to school every day. What is that? What's your mileage and time that you drive to school and home every day?
Well, it's about 85 minutes or so, about an hour and 20 minutes actually, about 80 minutes. So I do stay up here once or twice a week sometimes, so that helps a lot. But yeah, I get up at 5 and on the road by 5:30, and usually I'm here about 10 till 7 or whatever, and one of the early ones on campus.
For sure.
So.
Some early mornings.
Yep.
I think we'll get into this a little bit later in our conversation, but tell us why that commute, where do you live, and why the sort of interest in spending 85 minutes, each way just to be here at Chaminade?
Well, I grew up in Perry County near Perryville, Missouri, and my wife and I are both from down there, and worked up here and lived up here for a long time. And then when our kids came along, actually we had been down there, I had been principal down there for a couple of years, and when our kids came along, we were living up here, and I was like, oh, I think we're moving back, because I just felt much more comfortable raising the kids myself down there where I knew all the people around. I know the parents, the grandparents, everyone in the community pretty much, or quite a few of them, and just felt more comfortable. And we both love it down there, and but I love my job up here. So it was like I was thinking about taking a job down there like 16 years ago, whenever this all came about or whatever, and decided, she said, well, why don't you try commuting for a year? And here we are 16 years later.
All right, we'll get more back into that and some of your career stops and such in the future. But let's start then at the beginning, as you mentioned, growing up in the Perry County area and knowing everyone in that community. Take us into your early days and what was young Rick Wibbenmeyer like?
Well, I grew up in a very small community called Apple Creek, and there was only like 60 to 80 kids in my grade school. There would be like 8 or 10 kids per class, and there was 8 in my class for a long time, and then a couple would come and go here and there. But so real small farming community, St. Joseph's of Apple Creek. We had simple community, had a local store for groceries and stuff, and just a farming community, and everybody would work together and help each other out. We played baseball in the summertime, rode bikes, cut grass, farm, cut hay, whatever.
Was your family farmers?
Actually, no. My dad's dad passed away when he was a tiny tot or whatever, and so he, did odd jobs until he got old enough, and he worked there's a small airport down in Perryville, or outside of Perryville, down near Chester, Illinois, actually. But anyway, he worked there for 40 plus years. So
very good. Do you have siblings, or what was
was
family life like?
5 siblings. We grew up together. I was the 4th of 5 children, and just had a huge garden growing up when I was a kid, which you didn't like working in the garden, but after, as you grow up and realize things, it was a good thing. It was really good. And the community was great. We played baseball. My love of baseball came about through that era. There was a local Perry County League. It was called all the little towns in the county had their own baseball team, and we would play on Sunday afternoons, and we'd practice once during the week, and you would play on Sundays, and that was just great fun. And got to know all the people in Perry County kind of through that, or at least all of them that were involved in baseball at all. So
what position were you, or where did you normally play?
I pitched and played third base or shortstop. It just depended, but those were my 3 spots really.
So through high school and such? Was sports your thing, baseball your thing? Was that your hobby?
Football and baseball were my two real interests. I loved both of them a lot, and that was great, and got to do it. I hurt my shoulder in college. At the beginning of college, I tried to play just at Lynn Community College or whatever it was called, and that didn't work out. So, but that's okay. Life went on, and here we are.
So let's talk a little bit about that college journey. I think you hopped around a little bit. You had told me, I just know from having talked to you before. Talk us through that journey a little bit and how you got to education and math education ultimately.
Yeah, I started at Lynn Tech and played baseball and was thinking about going into electronics. And then as I got into that, I was like, man, I want to be working with people. And then I was thinking about being a priest for a while. I went into seminary for a couple of years and really loved all the people there and everything, but I didn't want to be a priest really. I think I was drawn to the holiness of a man, but not to, it just wasn't my calling or whatever. So got out of that, and when I left the seminary, which was Cardinal Glennon in St. Louis, and then I moved to Cape Girardeau to Southeast Missouri State and got my education degree. That's when I decided to go into education. And then once I got in there, I kind of settled down and, that realized that education and I took a couple coaching classes and started helping with St. Vincent's football team where I had went to high school. And gradually got more and more interested in that. Came up to Chaminade. Once I graduated from Southeast and Cape, I put out a bunch of, back then you'd look through the yellow pages or the big old phone book, and looked through and wrote out to 50 different schools, and I heard back from CBC and Chaminade on the same day and set up interviews. And went down to CBC, I think, first, and at that time it was down by St. Mary's and hospital or whatever, and I just felt landlocked there. And I came out here and saw Chaminade and the vast openings and the grounds and stuff, and I was like, I think I could see myself there. And so that's ultimately how I ended up here, and I don't know, started coaching and teaching, and I really like it. I love working with the kids and enjoyed that. And I had many influential coaches as a young kid. I mean, from my little Apple Creek Lions coach, the guys that coached me then, to my high school coaches, and that influenced me. And then the coaches I worked with here influenced me, and
So I want to follow up about those coaches, but let's step back for one more step for a moment if we could. I want to talk a little bit more about your calling to potentially to the priesthood or to go into the seminary. Seminary! Sorry about that.
We're all
seminary.
going into
we are all going there eventually, but you're not there yet, and neither am I. The seminary. Well, you obviously, was faith a big part of your life from the early on, your family?
So I grew up, where I grew up from this building, the Vera Center over here, over to the main, building over there, or at least a pillar away from the church, from the St. Joseph Church in Apple Creek. And they have a shrine down there, and that was always a part of me. And actually, I was in a farming accident when I was a sophomore in high school. I was in a tractor accident where we were hauling hay, and long story short, I got run over by a tractor, and I thought I was going to die. And that left a major impression on me, and decided, this faith stuff is real, and I need to work with it and develop myself, and so I have tried to.
So what was the seminary like for you? You said you really enjoyed the time, but then not to get too personal, but you just felt it wasn't for you, right?
It was very hard for me, because I really didn't think I wanted to be a priest. And matter of fact, the first year they didn't let me go in because they were like, well, if you don't want to be a priest, you don't need to come to the seminary. And I was like, yeah, I agree with you. And then a year later, I'm like, I still had this thing thinking, because a priest, when I was a little kid, a priest had talked to me about being a priest. And so I think that had stuck in me. And then, you know, kind of don't want to say no to God or whatever. And it was just hard figuring stuff out. But I really felt like once they let me in, and then that first year I still didn't feel like I totally gave myself to it, because I was like, I'm here, but I don't really want to be a priest, you know. But then the second year I'm like, okay, Lord, here I am. If you want me, you got me. And I don't know. It just eventually became clear late in that second year in the spring. I was driving down the highway, down 55, down to see my parents, and it just became clear that was not meant to be.
So there's a moment you can put your hand, your finger on that moment. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Good. Yeah, interesting. So Chaminade here was your first teaching job?
Chaminade was my full
and your only teaching.
Yes.
Well, I guess you did have one more stop that we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But so you spent most of your whole career here.
Yeah, I started here, and I had done my student teaching down at Cape Central in Cape Girardeau, and that was good. But while I was there, a student got killed in a car accident, and I just didn't feel like I was I didn't feel totally free saying everything I believed, or I didn't know where that line was of, you know, the faith line versus, you know, being, I don't know, not publicly correct or politically correct. I don't know what the word is exactly.
Sure. Well, that was going to be my next question is, were you looking to teach in a Catholic school? I mean, that was the priority?
Well, that became the priority. I mean, through that experience, I was like, man, I'm going to want to be in a Catholic school. I know that, you know, that's my belief. I think that's, you know, ultimately God's calling us to be, you know, just good people and help as many people as possible and do the best we can. So that was the best way for me to do it, I think.
For sure. So I always like to get people's impressions. Some of the other teachers I've asked the same question to. If you can, do you remember those first days standing in front of the class, the first day as a new teacher here? What was your mindset like?
Well,
excitement, fear,
combination.
all of the above?
Yeah, kind of all the above. I mean, nervous. Although I was teaching 8th grade, so you know, at least I was felt older than most of those kids or whatever. I think I actually had 8th grade and freshman my first year. Now that you're making me think here, but anyway, that was. Especially at the beginning, you know, till you got a little more comfortable, and obviously the more times you do it, the less nervous you are about it or whatever. But those first few times of just being by yourself, even whenever I was down at Cape Girardeau and just doing your student teaching, you know, first you would do just a little bit and then gradually a little more and then jump in on your own or whatever. So
what year is that you started here?
Started here in the fall of '88. Fall of 19.
And who was the principal then? What was
Brother Max Bear was the principal, and Brother Rich Villa was the disciplinarian, I think. He was for a while. I can't remember if he was that first year. But anyway, yeah, he Brother Bear hired me, and you know, got into, you know, assistant coach in baseball and assistant coach in football or whatever, help with freshman football and, you know, JV baseball or whatever, B-team baseball. So
very good. So you mentioned sort of being excited by the space on our campus, the sort of openness. Take us back to some of the things, especially for a younger student who might be listening, or a younger person. What were some of the differences from then to now, just literally with the physical campus space?
Well, one of the
transformation.
The big difference is whenever you'd walk down Cemetery Lane, there was an outdoor pool on the just right before you make the left going down to the football field now.
Basically where the tennis courts are.
Yeah, where the tennis courts is there, that's where it was. And that was, you know, used just in the summertime. It was used really in the summer more than it was really by the school in the spring because of the cool weather and whatnot. So, but that was one big thing. Well, obviously all this over here has changed. the addition onto behind Chaminade onto the middle school, most of that has been added on. Those are the bigger ones, I think.
Your time there.
Yeah.
So now I want to jump back to that coaching. You mentioned it there, and you mentioned a few minutes ago sort of the influence some of the coaches you had in your life. What were some of those lessons you took from, be it your youth baseball coach or your high school coaches, and how do you sort of try and translate that into your personality as a coach and what you bring to a team?
Well, I think everybody's got to coach and teach and whatever through their own strengths and incorporate, their qualities, their best qualities to enhance their program or whatever they're going to run. I think a good program has discipline in it. So I think that's a very important part of it, but I think you got to be very positive as you're, going through and incorporating that. So you got to have discipline, but you got to get the kids excited about being involved and, get them to believe in themselves. I think that, like for example, baseball, you fail 7 out of 10 times, they say, so man, you got to keep them up. So you got to be positive until you almost sometimes, it'd be like, man, I don't know if I can do this positive stuff anymore, but, anyway, yeah, if you do that certainly helps. But at the same time, you got to keep them grinding and working hard and, working to get better and stuff. So, but you want all kids to believe in themselves, because when they get in the batter's box, or if they're throwing the football or catching the football, they got to have confidence that they can do it. So you want to build them up as much as you can. For sure.
So take us through your sort of evolution in the baseball program a little bit. You said you started out, on the assistant on the lower levels, and then ultimately you became the head varsity coach. How did that happen, or what were kind of some of the opportunities?
Well, when I first started, I was a B team coach with Coach Picharco, and then he was a guy, a teacher on staff who was really kind of just helping out he was doing it more as a favor than as an interest. Mm-hmm. And so quickly I kind of had the more interest, so kind of took over that kind of fairly quickly and did that a couple years or whatever. And then myself and Coach Massa worked together for a number of years on the B team. And then, I don't know, it was in the mid 90s, 90, well, and right around 1990, Coach Engert came, mm-hmm. somewhere right around then. So I got here in the fall of '88, spring '89. I don't think he was there that year, but I think he was here in '90.
Yeah, from when we talked to him and talking to those other guys.
So
I think '90. I think that's correct.
He was here in '90, so got to learn a tremendous amount about baseball from him. I remember talking to another coach whose name's escaping me right now, but he goes, "Do you know Coach Lee Engert?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I'm not sure if Whitey Herzog taught Lee Engert or if Lee Engert taught Whitey Herzog." And I laughed or whatever. And then once I got to know Lee Engert, I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe there's quite a bit of truth to that. But
interesting.
Anyway, that was great. And so I learned a lot from him in regards to baseball.
And what, just to stop you right there, what did you learn? You don't have to get incredible minutia, but what are some big concepts?
You had to be organized, you had to have discipline, you had to be positive with the kids, you got to get them to believe in themselves, but you got to hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. He was very much about holding the kids accountable. He changed the culture of Chaminade baseball at that point in time, because it had been, down for a little while or whatever, and he brought in a lot of commitment, and I helped him. We put up a snow fence for the first baseball field, because the field didn't even have a fence. We built dugouts, original dugouts, and then we built the ones with the concrete that they just got rid of here a year ago or whatever, and
sure.
So we did a lot of little things like that to get people involved and excited, and got the field in better shape, and then eventually put a grass infield on the infield, and stuff like that. And
so did you then take over for him when
actually
he retired?
Coach Throw took over for a year, and I think I was with him. How did that work exactly? I was with him, and then he stepped down, and then I took over. It was, I spent a lot of time talking with kids. Lee did a lot of individual one-on-one sessions with kids, to talking with them about everything about life, about academics, about work habits, about drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it, scope of life. And then I tried to follow suit with that over the next few years. So as I started in 97, I guess, is whenever I took over the program in the spring of 97. I think he retired after the 96. No, he retired after 95, and Thoreau had it for 96, and then I had it for 97. Anyway, so talking with kids individually, just having meetings and meeting with them and discussion things and trying to get them to believe in themselves, but getting them fired up to work and develop and understand together everyone achieves more, and there's no I in team, and all those slogans. And I wrote out I would type up stuff and put it plastered on the board every day or whatever, and this is what we're going with, and and get them going, and so
you had some very successful seasons, especially a state championship winning season. Can you take us inside that a little bit, and that group of guys?
Oh, just a competitive group of guys, great young men. They were really good kids, worked hard, they loved to compete. They weren't, I don't know if we were the most talented team in the state. I doubt whether we were, but we were gritty and tough, and had numerous comebacks throughout the year and worked really hard, and they believed themselves. I remember many times Coach Massa hitting extra ground balls to Coach Satori, he was a player at the time,
right.
But just to help him along, and kids gained confidence, and gradually it just kept getting more and more confident. It just kept building and building, and we had a couple of really good pitchers, Jared Theodorakis and Greg Ryan, and we had a stud catcher, Dave Koizenkothen, and when you got two pitchers and a catcher, you got a chance. And Mike Kunderman, who was our captain, super guy, he was glue that brought everybody together, and then we had a lot of supportive cast who, that did a great job. So they did things together, and I don't know, we had many exciting games. One of them, it was like I'm going out to the mound and I'm deciding whether I'm taking this kid out or not from pitching or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. But I was always, one thing I was always taught, better a batter too soon than a batter too
right,
late. So
sure.
I hooked him, and it worked, But that was just
And who did you guys play in the state finals or semifinals and finals, and how'd those go? I mean, we know you won, but
I'm getting my years mixed up because Parkway Central was 92 whenever Coach
right,
that team won. That was 92 and 98. We beat DeSmet in the finals.
Oh wow, that was
yeah,
MCC rival.
The semifinals I'm drawing a blank on right now, to be honest with you, but yeah,
so you'd obviously seen them earlier in the year.
DeSmet had beaten us twice during the regular season, and
so what was the difference in the state final?
In the state final was pitching primarily. Greg Ryan pitched the semifinals. Greg Ryan had pitched the quarterfinals down at Sykeston, and we won that game. I believe it was 4-2, and then in the finals, in the semifinals, he started that one as well because it's almost like a week later or whatever, and he pitched that one, and I really don't remember totally what happened, but obviously we won. And then in the final game, I'm pretty sure we won 5-0, and Theodorakis shut them down. And the infielders, Satori and Twelman and I am great little second baseman, Will Scavera. They did a great job, and Weber was at first, and did a great job and shut them down and scored 5 runs. And I know Theodorakis and Koizenkothen both had big hits, and I think Greg Ryan did too. So just great job overall.
Got your revenge for the 2 previous losses.
Yeah.
Won the one that really mattered.
Yeah,
right?
won the big one. So.
Good deal. So then, what's the reason for eventually getting out of it and stepping back?
Well, what happened?
That transition?
So about a year later, I was down visiting my parents, and when we were in Perryville, I had a priest down there ask if we would come down there and be the principal and counselor, my wife and I, because we got married in like 96. We got married in 97, and asked if we'd come down there to St. Vincent's and be the principal, or if I would, and I was like, I don't know, and then did it, and it was a good experience, but I really missed the classroom, and did that 3 years, and actually was able to be, he let me be the baseball coach down there.
Oh, you were, while you were the principal.
Yeah, and we actually won state down there also.
Oh, you did? I didn't ever know that.
We won in 2000, and in 2001 we got second.
I didn't know you were
on
two
a
times.
pass ball by not a pass ball, on the catcher overthrew the pitcher with a runner on third.
Just throwing the ball back to the pitcher.
Yeah, it was crazy, and our catcher was a stud then too.
Oh,
had the same combination. I had two good pitchers and a stud catcher.
Wow.
That's my formula.
Gotcha. Replicate it for sure.
Yeah.
So what about being a principal? Did not to talk bad about it, but like why was not a great fit?
Well, my wife and I were working very closely together, and I love her to pieces, and she loves me. But it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't the best thing.
Sure.
I don't think you want to be your wife's boss. Long story short.
I can imagine.
So anyway, that I decided after 3 years, and down there, I mean, being the principal was tough because you go out to the grocery store, and all you want to do is get groceries, and somebody'd be there and want to talk to you about Joe,
right.
and whoever. And I don't know, that I wasn't, I wanted to be more of a coach than I wanted to be. So anyway.
Sure. So how did it end up that you are back here?
So then I called up, I had a situation down there, and I called Garker, who was the principal up here at the time, about whatever it was, that particular situation. And we got talking, and he had a math opening again. He goes, well, you wouldn't be interested in coming back, would you? And I was like, So then Louise and I decided, and then we moved back up here. And then when we moved, took the job back at Chaminade, and got back involved in baseball, and Massa was the head coach at the time, and anyway, worked with him and Chaburros and stuff, and had fun and coached and stuff. But during that time, where was I going?
You moved back up here.
We moved back up here. She got pregnant, and when she got pregnant, I was
Gotcha.
like, "Oh my gosh, we're moving back to Perryville." I already knew it.
Knew it.
I knew where I wanted to raise kids, and we had tried to have kids down there, and it wasn't working. And
Sure.
so, anyway, 5 years later, once John, our son, was going into first grade, or 6 years later, I guess it was, that's when we moved back down there. But,
very good.
Yeah.
So, talking about your love for the classroom and being in the classroom, being a teacher, I want to talk a little bit about the math classroom. Certainly you got some students, I'm sure, who love math, but in general, the general population, probably not the class that is always their favorite. How do you get a student excited about the math curriculum? What excites you about, what do you like about math?
Well, it's always true. I mean, it's always true. It always wins. 2 + 3 is always 5. It is so consistent. It's ridiculous. We are not near as consistent as human beings as it is. So just that consistency, and that I always tell them to write down the truth. If they write down the truth, they're going to score high. But, that's a challenge for them, and a challenge for me sometimes. But anyway, it's I think the way you get them to get interested is have an interest in them. If you show that you care about them, then they're going to be more apt to care about it. And that was really easy when I was younger and coaching and involved with them on a daily basis. Because basically you got to get some of them, and then others come along for the ride. They kind of come along with them. Now being out of coaching and stuff, you gotta go to a soccer game, or go to a basketball game, or whatever, or a play or a band performance, or whatever it is, to show interest in that, and that helps. And just showing that you're interested and care about them, help them, say hi to them in the hall, talk to them, whatever.
You're also famous for your sayings in the classroom, the integer interstate maybe, or fraction freeway, or these little sayings. That I'm sure there's others. Maybe you can spit some out to remember. Are those standards, or do you make them up, and where did that come from?
Yeah, they just evolved. I mean, I don't know. When you're teaching the same lesson day after day and time after time, you want to make it interesting. I'm trying to make it interesting for myself. They think it's for them or whatever, but so just trying to help things out as much as you can, do things to, bring it to life. The fraction freeway, integer interstate, I don't know, one of them started and then another one. I mean, back in the 90s, I know I did something with fruit. I can't even remember what they were, apples and oranges or whatever. You put apples with apples, oranges with oranges, or whatever the case may be. And, whenever you got like terms and all that stuff. So it was just things and it's to help them remember how to do stuff by doing simple things like that and using acronyms like I got DAMP SNAM and there's all kinds of them, but it's just to help them as a way to remember things. There's a song for the quadratic formula you can sing that goes with pop goes the weasel, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of blah blah blah.
Very good.
So those are
music
things
going on in your classroom. You got a lot going on.
Yeah,
in
we
your classroom.
we try.
I like it. So you've also been a dean for a long time with the Lamoureux House. How did you get involved there? How did that come about?
Whenever I came back to Chaminade, that was just starting up, and they had just initiated it. So I came back. Let's see, I was down there 2000, 2001. 2000, 2001, 2002. So I was back up here for 03, which I think was the first year of it. And then in 04, one of the teachers left or whatever, so I took over for a dean in the Lamoureux House and, kind of been at it ever since. I don't know, I see it as a great way to help build relationships is probably the biggest thing for me. And I think relationships are about helping each other out. You helping me and me helping you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. Supporting each other and stuff. And that's the big thing. And I think our faith goes along with that and developing the Chaminade family, it's good stuff.
Was there any tangible difference you noted from, when you left 3 years earlier to now the house system has been in place? Was it that sort of immediate that you came back and, the culture's different, or no, it just evolved over time?
Well, shortly thereafter. It was after that first year when, and after kids, I think one of the big things that evolved was the kids across the grade levels was different. Because whenever I was here before, the class in 1990 hung out with the class in 1990 and maybe a few from 89 or a few from 91, but whenever you come back now, you see kids hang out, you'll see kids who come back from college and they'll talk to a freshman because they had them in mentor group when they were a senior as an 8th grader or whatever, so that type of thing I think has helped a lot. I think that's helped the relationships across the board, and I think it's limited class division, and I think it's helped the unity of Chaminade.
You mentioned a few in your other answers along the way, but who are some of, maybe all the way back to your early days, or even now, folks that Chaminade teachers, faculty members, administrators that you've really looked up to, or taken something from in terms of their example, et cetera? Talk to some of the folks that have influenced you in this community.
Oh, I mean, in the Chaminade community, definitely Gerker, who was principal when I first started or whatever. Wayne McKim, who was the athletic director for a long time. Dan Burkowski, who was the athletic director after him. I mean, obviously Lee Engert, a bunch of coaches. Bob Steiner, who was basketball coach for a while from DeSmet. I mean, there's all kinds of people, you know, and
Let's go back. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to go back a second to Wayne McKim. He's somebody whose name has come up a bunch. Certainly a name. He was not here, you know, since I've been here, so I personally don't know him. But talk to us a little bit more about him. I feel like he's somebody in our interviews we've mentioned, but we don't quite get into. What made him special? What made him such a legend around here?
Well, Wayne was grounded in Chaminade. I mean, he devoted his life, I would say, to Chaminade. He was a single man, which made it probably a little bit easier, you know, as far as not having as many ties to family that he had to take care of or whatever. But, you know, he, you know, as an athletic director, you would see him out striping the field and, you know, doing whatever, just getting things scheduled. But you would always see him taking the time to talk to kids and trying to develop them to get them to become the man they were, you know, expected to be. So he really worked on developing rapport with the kids and his relationship with them.
Awesome. Again, it's come up already in your answers a few times, but let's delve a little bit more into your personal life. Where'd you meet your wife? How did that come about? You mentioned you're both from Perry County area, right?
We actually went to the same high school together, St. Vincent's High School. She was a year more mature than me, we'll say. And anyway, you know, we had dated once when we were younger, but didn't seem to click at the time. And then whenever we dated later on, which was in probably like 95 or whatever, then things seemed to, you know, take a turn. And then all of a sudden, then I was like, wow. Then all of a sudden I was like worried. Oh, then I backed off because I was like, I don't know about this. But then, yeah, she's just super person, great for me.
And she's a counselor still, right? Yeah.
She's actually, she's gone back full time into teaching now this last year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so she wanted to finish out, before we finish up, she wanted to finish out while in education. She wanted to get back into teaching because she started in teaching in the Rockwood School District actually, and then went to Narings and coached volleyball at Narings and at Coriezu, and then obviously when we moved down to St. Vincent, she became the counselor down there and did that for quite a run, but she really loves teaching.
And where does she teach?
She teaches middle school math.
Middle school math?
Primarily, and she teaches some freshmen too, I think, so that's what she's doing this year.
You guys are math all the time, all day in the Wibbenmeyer house.
Math, yeah. We find X way too often.
And your kids, talk to us a little bit about your two children and what they're up to.
We have a son, John, and a daughter, Maria. John is actually finishing his degree at Mizzou. He just texted me yesterday and said he had turned in his last assignment, so he's getting his civil engineering degree from Mizzou, and then he's going to work on his MBA and here over the next year or so. So
at Mizzou, he's staying there for that?
At Mizzou,
awesome.
He's staying there for that, and he plays club baseball, and he's been involved with the Newman Center and many other things, and doing well. And then our daughter Maria is up at Truman. This is her first year at Truman, and she seemed to adjust to college life pretty well, and likes it up there and likes the academics and the setting. And she's also gotten involved in the Newman Center and playing intramurals and whatever else.
Very good, very good. So how's your first year of being an empty nester been?
It's new, it's different, it's quieter, but it's okay.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, we're getting used to it. So we miss them sometimes, but you know, and then other times it's nice. So,
exactly.
You know,
I understand that for sure as well too. So what's the next step? So you hoping to just sort of continue doing what you're doing for another number of years till you hit the end of the road?
Probably a few more years, and we'll see whatever God has in store exactly. I don't know. Sometimes I think I want to do other things, and then other times I was like, no, I think I'm good where I am. So. And
in terms of just to kind of go along with that with the coaching thing, do you miss the coaching, being out of it?
You know what I miss most about it is it's probably not even the games itself and the coaching in the game. It's the rapport with the kids through the games.
Sure.
You know, that's probably the biggest thing that I probably miss and would like, because I don't know, I like being, and I think it's easier. That's an avenue I think I was fairly decent at being positive with kids in that environment, and they fed off of that, and they liked that, and I liked doing that, and the feeling it gave both of us, or whatever. So
very good. Well, let's just wrap up with my typical last question that I ask everybody who sits in that chair of playing off our school motto, Esto Vir. Certainly it means literally be a man, but what does that mean to you, to Rick Wibbenmeyer? What do you take with that? How does that influence your time from your time at Chaminade? How does it influence your day-to-day work?
Well, you just try to be the man God created, me to be, and I mess up, and when I mess up, I try to acknowledge that I messed up, and and then grow from that and get better at it and help others along the way and do little things that you don't want to do, maybe. And I talk to the kids sometimes about, they're like, I don't want to do that, and I'm like, well, you know what? I didn't want to change my kids' diapers or whatever, So, you got to do things that you don't want to do sometime to be the man God calls you to be. And, obviously Christ died on the cross for us. So we are, called to do things that we don't necessarily want to do from time to time also. So, but, I think being positive and being enthusiastic and being supportive and trying to see other people's point of view. I mean, everybody has their own perspective. You got your perspective, Scott is, I got mine, whatever. We all are in a different, we see the same stuff, but we're in a little different spot, so that makes a difference, and we all want to hopefully help each other out and make, Chaminade a better place. And, I was emotional this afternoon. I don't think the kids noticed it, but that kid that's dying in Vianney, I really felt for him, because a flood of emotion came back to me, because about 20 years ago I had a nephew who passed away when he was 15 from cancer, bone cancer, and that just just like flooded back to me during the prayer time, and I was like, wow. So God is with us, and we want to help. I want everybody to get there, because we want to have a big party up in the sky someday. So, amen.
So you're still, that's what brings you back every day. That what helps you make that 85 mile commute every day is that work right there. So thanks for making that commute every day, and thanks for all you have done and continue to do for the Chaminade community. And thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you again in the audience for joining us as well. And stay tuned for more episodes of The Hilltop.